Welcome back to the Tutorium in Intensive English. My name is Katie. In our fourth pronunciation module, we're going to be talking about the simple past tense ed endings. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So in today's module, we're going to be talking about voiced and voiceless sounds in English. Then we're going to talk about how these connect to simple past tense endings, ed in English, and how that affects past tense endings and syllables. And finally, we'll do a little bit of practice. Okay, so the first thing on our agenda is the distinction between voiced and voiceless sounds and what those mean. Let's consult our diagram. I have my trusty diagram of our mouth and throat. And the first thing I want to point out on our diagram, we're moving a little lower than our mouth today, and we're starting in our throat. And in your throat, you have some folds, some like vocal, folds of skin that can cause some sounds to vibrate. So imagine air is traveling from your lungs up through your throat and out your mouth. Sometimes sounds and the air of sounds can cause those folds to vibrate a little bit. And this is where we get the terms voiced and voiceless. If a sound causes your vocal folds to vibrate, we call this a voiced sound. If it doesn't, not all sounds do. If those folds don't vibrate, that is what we call a voiceless sound. So with vibration, voiced. Without vibration, voiceless. Okay, so that's our basic definition of voiced and voiceless. Now let's see if we can feel that. Okay, so when we are testing for whether a sound is voiced or voiceless, you're going to put your hands on your throat, kind of like around where that, voice box is. And first thing I'll tell you is all vowels are voiced. Okay, so all vowels have vibration. Now consonants are a little trickier. Some consonants vibrate and are voiced, and other consonants are voiceless and don't vibrate. Okay, let's see if we can feel the difference on a few of these consonants. I'm not going to do all of them in this presentation. Let's start with B, which is a voiced sound, and its voiceless counterpart, P. Now, when you make these sounds and you're testing for vibration, it's really important that you try and say just the consonant sound and not a vowel sound after it. For example, we don't want to say P because you're really making the E sound, and that will affect whether or not you're hearing or feeling vibration. So let's try with B. 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 Can you feel that? Let's try with a vowel first, just so we can feel that vibration. Let's say ah. You feel kind of a little vibrating in your throat. Now let's try B. You should feel that vibration. B. B. Now let's try with the voiceless P sound. So when we say P, we want to say P. P. There's nothing. B, B, P. So one vibrates, one doesn't vibrate. Let's try with D and T. Okay, so putting our hand here just lightly. D. D. And now T, T, T. G and K, G, K, G, K. Hopefully you're feeling the difference in your throat and that vibration. When you make a voiced sound, you should feel a vibration. And when you're making those voiceless sounds, you don't really feel anything. Okay, so that is a quick demonstration of voiced and voiceless. But what does this mean for past tense endings in English? Okay, let's get down to that. So there are 3 rules that tell us how to pronounce the past tense ed ending in English. Now, I really want to just quickly point out that these rules only apply to the regular verbs in English. For example, walk is a regular verb. When we say walk in the past, it becomes walked. We add an ed. These rules do not apply to irregular verbs. For example, the verb go. We don't say goed, right? In the past, we say went. So this is only applied to regular past tense verbs. Okay, so there are 3 rules, and that means there are 3 different ways to say the ed sound at the end of a past tense verb. The first rule, let's talk about base verbs. If the base verb, before we put it in the past, if the base verb ends in a voiceless sound, right, with no vibration, then we add a T. The ED sound sounds like a T, which is also a voiceless sound. So voiceless plus voiceless. The ED does not create an extra syllable. What? Let's look at an example just to clarify. Okay, so I have 2 examples here, wash and like. Both of these base verbs end in a voiceless consonant sound. Wash ends shh, no vibration. So when we add the ed, it sounds like a T. Washed. Washed. Like also ends in the voiceless consonant k. Like. So when I add the ed, it sounds like T. Liked. Remember, voiceless plus voiceless. Washed. Liked. Notice also that our syllable number does not change. Like, liked. Wash, washed. Okay. Rule number 2. When the base verb ends in a voiced sound, the ed is pronounced like a D. Okay? So D is a voiced sound. So just like our T, voiced plus voiced. The ed in this case does not create a new syllable. Let's look at an example. Let's look at a couple examples. Okay, live and realize. So the verb live ends in the voiced consonant sound v, live. So the ed sounds like a D, lived, lived. Same with realize. Realize ends in the voiced consonant sound z, realize. So when we add our ed, we add the D sound, realized. Now, just like our T, these do not create additional syllables from our base verbs. Live, 1 syllable. Lived, 1 syllable. Realize, 2 syllables. Realized, still 2 syllables. You with me? Okay. Now, there is an exception to both of these first 2 rules, and that is where we get our final rule. Now, the first 2 rules work for all sounds, except if the base verb ends in a T or a D sound. It's too difficult to say 2 T's and 2 D's right next to each other. It's really difficult. So to give our mouth a break, we add a little vowel sound, schwa, in between. So the third sound is ud. Let's look at an example just to make this a little clearer. So I got two examples, surround and delete. Now, both of these end in either a D or a T. So in surround, it ends in a D sound, surround. Okay, so when we add the ED, it sounds like ud, surrounded. And I have created an extra syllable. Surround is 2 syllables. Surrounded is now 3 syllables. Delete ends in a T sound. So when I make it past tense, I have to choose the ud sound, deleted or deleted when we say it quickly. Also, I've added a syllable. Delete is 2 syllables. Deleted is 3 syllables. These are our rules. Okay, don't worry, you don't have to commit these to memory right now. You can always review them after today's module. All right, so let's do a little bit of practice with 3 new verbs. Okay, I've got walk, love, and land here. Now, walk ends in that voiceless K. So what sound am I going to add? That's right. I'm going to add a T sound, and it's going to sound like walked. And have I created extra syllables? No, it's still 1 syllable. Let's try it in a sentence. I walked home today. It's always good to try things in connected language, right? Because that's how we're really going to talk. You're never going to just walk around saying one word, not very often anyway. I walked home today. Okay, let's think about love. Love ends in V, which is a voiced consonant. So what sound am I going to add? If you said D, you are correct. Loved. I loved that movie. And notice it's still 1 syllable. Loved. Our last, land, ends in a D sound, right? So we know we're going to add the ud sound. Landed. And I've created an extra syllable. Land, landed. My plane landed on time. Hey, can't ask for much more than that. So before we go, don't stress. Review the voiced and voiceless and voiced consonant chart that is in the Module 3 folder. You can download that PDF. In addition, there is a PDF that you can also download so that you can go over the 3 rules for the simple past ED that we just went over in this lesson. Practice exercise 1 and 2 in the Module 3 folder, and just keep practicing as much as you can. Every time you encounter a past tense, a regular past tense verb in English, practice saying it the correct way. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.